Holton, thank you for jumping on, man. I don't have the numbers, but I'm willing to wager you might be in a single season the most efficient quarterback to ever play professional football. How's that feeling, dude?
Feels pretty good. I think I know the most efficient running back, and I think he's on our team too right now. So feels good with Smitty going 3 for 3 first game. So I feel pretty good right now.
Well, it's a battery, right? You got the center, you got you, and then you got the running back. Obviously a little bit of a page out of Birmingham's book. When you have Jonathan Heimbach there, I think you're always going to lean towards running the football. There's so many weapons, but overall, how's this season been compared to last year? I mean, you kind of came in this year as the clear QB2. Obviously, Luke, a lot of accomplishments there, but year in the system and whatnot. How's it been just kind of going into 2025 for you, man?
It's been really good. You talked about Jaime a little bit. I mean, he's very, very good and he studies a lot of new plays. Like we're all always installing new run plays. That's something we saw from Birmingham. And they were obviously really successful at it. So we kind of put in our own version of it. Now we have a couple different things that they do. We do a little bit differently, but the formation wise, yes, it's the exact same pretty much as far as I know. And then you have the quarterback situation. I just knew coming in, like, look, Luis is the guy. I understood that. I just wanted to come in and have as good as camp as possible. I feel like I did that. And then adding Luke too, obviously Lindsey Scott, I'm really close with him. He was here last year. He was the two last year and we kind of, rotated in as the two throughout the season. And then, Luke's got a lot of potential. He's just young. He's learning a lot right now. And look, he's growing a lot on scout team. And I told him, I mean, look, I was on scout team last year. I was in his situation. I was QB3 for the Seattle Seahawks in 23. So I know what it's like to have to learn and kind of not get that many reps. But, that's part of pro football. And the people who can learn, especially when you're younger without playing, those are the guys who stick around the longest. So I really like our quarterback room. Luis is obviously one of the best ever playing spring football and just being with him and learning him. And look, any way I can help him, and I told him that, and he knows that. I'm going to be there for him. And then if something happens and I got to go in, that's the QB2's job is go in there and operate and, do what they do well.
Yeah, obviously, there's always the joke that QB2 is the best job in the world. Obviously, guys like Chase Daniel, Charlie
Oh, yeah.
Whitehurst go down the list, have made millions upon millions of dollars and continue to do so. Holden, as you kind of go and progress into the year and whatnot, have you kind of seen yourself kind of have to change your game a little bit? You kind of hinted on it from like mentoring Luke to, I would say the maturity of growth from 2023, growing from the Seahawks now. Has that kind of also changed your game a little bit? Effectively playing smarter, not harder type of mentality?
I think that's pro football in general. The pro football, especially the quarterback position, the guy who can, make the less, do their job or make the least mistakes possible consistently, time after time after time after time, is one that's going to outlast people, and make a career out of it. So, my job is to go there, changing the way I play. Not really. I mean, look, there's going to be times like with this offense where if Luis is in and if I'm in, it's gonna look a little bit different. Clearly, I mean, we have two different skill sets, but it's still going to be a lot of the same offense. We have plays that benefit him that fit his skill set, and then there's ones that we both like. Yeah, I'm the two, so I really got to kind of form my game around this offense. But yeah, I mean, I just think staying consistent the longest is the best thing for me and any quarterback is just make the best decision each one play at a time. If you do that throughout a career, you're gonna have a really good career.
How did you kind of journey to the UFL going into last year? Obviously spending time with Seattle and then, this kind of like up and coming league. Did you guys in college talk about the USFL, the XFL, and then, when you kind of it came to your time, the UFL, was that something that was talked about? Obviously, Garrett McGinn was a ECU guy, a lot of success. He's been around. I don't know if you guys crossed paths, how much
Yep.
older he is than you.
Yeah, he was fifth year, my true freshman year. So yeah, I knew a lot of him. I knew about the leagues a lot. I mean, look, especially you talk about like the group of five, or I guess a group of four now. Like, you pay attention to leagues like this because you don't know, the NFL opportunity. Now, I felt like I would get an NFL opportunity. I felt like I, had a really good college career, and I did with Seattle. And then, in terms of like deciding if I'm going to play in this league or not. It was more of, the last time I kind of got cut from Seattle, it was one of those where, I got cut and signed a lot of times back and forth with them. And then the last time they're like, look, we're not going to sign you to a futures. You might want to look somewhere else. And it's towards the end of the year at that point. So it's hard to kind of get in with a team going into the playoffs. So, me and my agent talked, my family talked, and just felt like this league was it was going to be the first year, but the XFL and the USFL at the time had put guys back into the league, and it's just a good career on its own. Like you said, Garrett McGinn has made a really good career out of this, and still got NFL opportunities. So it kind of just aligned with what I wanted my career path to be. And I couldn't ask more of the UFL. I mean, they've done a really good job, and would I like to play more? Yes, but I mean, that's just pro football. I'm just going to wait my turn, and as the two, like I said, I just got to be ready to play whenever my time's called.
There's only 24 spots at this level. You'd say another 27 in the CFL, and then about 30, excuse me, 96. So there's very few people in this on this earth that get to play quarterback at the professional level. Obviously, there's a lot of room for talk with expansion and everything like that. You obviously need to crawl before you walk, walk before you expand. Is it kind of centering yourself sometimes when, like, personally, I do think you have ability just like other quarterbacks in this league. You kind of wish it'd be a 16 team a 16 team league at times again. But is it kind of just, staying focused on the long game, obviously NFL, but like at some point, just kind of going through the minutia when times are tough? How's that process for you?
I mean, look, like I said, I want to play, and that's why I'm here. But at the same time, like I said, I understand the situation that I'm in, and as the two, I was really, really fortunate when I was in Seattle. I was with Gino and Drew Lock in the quarterback room, and Gino and Drew Lock's relationship was really, really good. And then Drew kind of mentored me my rookie year, and that's kind of how I view this almost with the Luis, being the older guy, me kind of as the two, the kind of in between, and then Luke as a younger guy. So I see a lot of similarities there. And then you talk about expansion and stuff like that. Look, I mean, I think the Renegades have it the best, and you can ask people around the league. I mean, look, we don't got to travel every single weekend. We don't got to do that. I love Texas, so as long as I can play for the Renegades, I'm going to be here because I like the people here. And I hope my time comes, and Luis makes it to the NFL, and then it's my time to step up and play. But either way, I'm just going to continue to do whatever my job, whatever they're asking of me. This is the situation that I want to be in the team that I want to be on. So I'm staying with them as long as I can.
Holton, I think what I like about you is I feel a lot of guys go to go to professional sports and they do not monetize their career. Now, I don't know if you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars doing your podcast and whatnot, but I think you've made a really good career decision, just like a couple other guys, of taking the resources that you have, the supplement income. How did the podcast come about?
Yeah, man, it's kind of crazy. I never would have thought, if you would ask me even just a couple years ago, I never would have thought I would have a
Oh,
podcast. I really didn't know that much about it. Yeah, it was when I was in Seattle, I just tweeted out during an ECU game. I tweeted something about the game and it had like 60,000 like interactions. And then I was like, well, wow. And then one of my teammates actually in Seattle sent it to me like, dude, if you have this much, you should definitely do a podcast. And I tweet out, should I do a podcast? And it had like 100,000. And then from there, the owner of Pirate Radio, Jonathan Ellerby in North Carolina, reached out and was like, hey, let's meet about this. And yeah, it kind of just went from there. And at the time, like I said, I didn't know much about it. My dad's in the media business too. He's been with, Pirate Radio for a while now. So I knew about the business, but never thought I would really be in it. I thought, I like the like sideline reporting and analysts and stuff like that, but never the podcast game. And yeah, I just talked to him and he kind of pitched a vision. And then I kind of said, well, look, if I did this, this is the vision I would want. My best friend at the time, and still is my best friend, Caden Norman, my co-host on it, was my backup quarterback for 4 years at ECU, and we had a really good relationship. And that's where kind of like having good relationships with the guys in the room kind of came from. So yeah, and then got a couple of my other best friends on it, and we just kind of took off. And yeah, it's been a blessing. I couldn't imagine the life that's given me kind of through football has been it's been a huge blessing.
yeah, I got into media because a bunch of my clients like were football players and whatnot,
Yeah.
and they were like, "You know way more about this," and I was like, "Yeah, I like it," and they're like, "No, like you know more
Yeah.
about football," and I'm like,
I
I
love
mean,
it, man.
Dude,
Yeah,
yeah, it's the greatest game ever, man.
for sure.
Mirrors life. Yeah, I recently saw your recent show with Lucas. It seems like the guys are embracing it. Like, they kind of want to get on, explore their platform, and share their platform, share their stories. Any save rounds regarding like any guys that like people aren't paying attention to that you kind of got the inside scoop to and everything?
You're talking about like playing wise, like what guys
Yeah,
would
guys
be.
on the Renegades. Like, who's got the story that's kind of like a little bit of an introvert that you're like, oh man, you got to tell
Uh,
people some stuff.
um, Gosh, there's so many, man. That's why kind of I wanted to get guys on the team this year because I didn't do that last year, and like this league just has so many different stories that like I kind of said it on the podcast. Like in the NFL, it's like, yeah, I'm 22 years old. I have $5 million in my bank account, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a cool story. But there's guys in this league that have been bouncing around. I mean, Luis's example,
Yeah,
Luke's an example. Luke's 23 years old. That's just the quarterback room of guys. I mean, I'm pretty sure Luke has the most touchdowns ever in college football, and
yeah.
yeah, I mean, he's playing some receiver now for scout team. Like he's doing a lot of different things that you wouldn't even think of and these stories and stuff like that. And I've always said, I know I'm going on a rant here, it's kind of
No,
podcast
go,
talking,
go,
but
go, go.
I've always said, like, obviously TV is what makes money. I really think the UFL should do a last chance U type thing or a, hard knocks type thing. There's no way these TV companies wouldn't go and buy it. For player wise, um, gosh, there's so many, man. Golly, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, Luis is a great story. Marquette King. I mean, look, he was a Pro Bowler, punter, All Pro punter. Now playing in this league and rapping on the side, and like he's killing both of it. So that's a really good one. But I mean, there's just so many, man. I couldn't tell you all of them right now.
You kind of touched on it. It wasn't on my notes, but I'm always fascinated by a lot of people's ignorance to the finances of NFL life.
Yeah,
I feel personally like, maybe not. I'd have to look Garrett because I know he had a couple of strings, but guys who was Jaden Mickens on DC, for example, signed a week, cut a week, signed a week, cut a
yeah,
week, and you hope you do that 10 times, you can make, I think it's $8,000 minimum, 80 grand and whatnot, and you're just like, you got to make that stretch
yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
3% free agent. Um, has the UFL kind of, and like you guys talk internally and whatnot, like kind of like you see, like you were saying, you make $5 million, but it ain't really $5 million. Are those kind of locker room conversations sometimes when you see a
Oh yeah.
guy who had a couple years in the NFL and then you're like, dude, like you should be good, and you're like, nah, a lot of taxes, dude, a lot of
No, there is for
taxes.
sure, man. And like, especially these guys who had a lot of success early on in their NFL career, like you just think it's going to last forever. Like, I mean, there's guys, all throughout this league who, played first 3 years and now they're in this league. And there's nothing wrong with this league. I love this league, but you think that it's going to last forever, and the NFL is not for long. I mean, you just don't play long. I mean, that's just how it is. They're always looking for your replacement. So yeah, there's tons of stories like that in these locker rooms.
Last question for me, man. I've been asking all the quarterbacks this. How's the dynamic of kind of the UFL quarterback room with all 24, 25 guys and whatnot? Is there anyone you train with in the league in the off season that you've become really tight with? I know you talked about Lindsey. Obviously, he's doing awesome things at Texas
Yep.
Tech right now. But is there anyone that you kind of mesh with? Luke says he trains with Rocky Lombardi. Um, Dresser Wynn also goes golfing with Rocky. It seems like Rocky's kind of the socialite, man, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Lindsey was my guy. We were really close friends. Like he's going to my wedding. Honestly, see, being in like Eastern North Carolina, there's not that many quarterback coaches out there. So I don't train with a bunch of the guys from this league. I know a bunch of them. Like we get on calls with Jordan Palmer once a week. When pretty much all of us are up there just to talk. So I've gotten to know a few of them, but. As of like training in the off season, yeah, it's just me. My fiance snaps the ball to me, and I got one receiver out there training. So.
Awesome. And sorry, I got one more
No,
last
yeah, go for it.
question. ECU, I believe Philip Nelson,
Yeah.
he was a spring league guy. Did you guys cross paths? I think he was an 18, a UDFA
I think he
2018.
was right before me. I think he left. But yeah, I followed him when he was in this league. I got a chance to meet him maybe once.
Okay.
But yeah, he I mean, I'm pretty sure I actually think he played for the Renegades.
He did. Yeah, he
Yeah.
started for when Landry Jones was hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember I'm from Greenville, so I mean I watched ECU my whole life, so I definitely remember him playing. He could always spin it, and then obviously coming here and playing, but didn't really get to talk to him too much about it. I talked to Garrett again about it because I mean I had a couple offers from different teams last year when I was deciding if I wanted to play in this league or not, and just talked about the Renegades and their situation, and obviously playing with Garrett, I could bounce things off of him more than a guy that I didn't play with.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you jumping on, getting to know you a little bit, rooting for you, dude.
For sure,
Hopefully
appreciate
they
it, man.
throw you a couple packages in there, can see
Hope so.
some goofy
Hope
stuff.
so.
I like my personal opinion, man, with you as a lefty, you go into the T form, that T
Yeah.
formation, roll them out to the left.
Yes, sir.
These guys don't got these guys can't near leg shuffle the way some other guys can.
Hey,
So,
maybe one day. Maybe one day.
yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, always, dude.